My name is Anna, and I grew up in a house where silence was louder than words. From the outside, our home looked perfect, a neat suburban house with a white fence, a small garden Mom tended every weekend, and a family of 4 that neighbors called picture perfect. But inside, things were different. Inside, love didn't flow evenly. It had rules, directions, and favorites. My parents were strict, the kind of strict that made you think twice before breathing too loudly. Dad worked as an accountant, the quiet, calculating type who believed discipline built character. Mom, a school teacher, carried her beliefs like gospel. Grades mattered, manners mattered, appearances mattered. And then there was Lily, my little sister, the light of their lives. Lily was the kind of child who could melt anyone's heart. She had that natural sweetness, big brown eyes, a soft voice, and a way of saying, "Daddy, please," that made every rule bend in her favor. When she spilled juice on the carpet, it was an accident. When I forgot to take the trash out, it was irresponsible. I was 15 when I realized the pattern wasn't going to change. That was the night of the piano recital. I had practiced for weeks, every afternoon after school, sometimes skipping dinner just to get the rhythm right. When the night came, I played my piece, a soft, haunting melody that filled the school auditorium. My hands shook a little, but I didn't miss a note. The applause felt warm. For a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, they would be proud. Afterward, I looked for them in the crowd. I saw Dad, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Mom smiled, polite, not proud. But Lily, she wasn't even there. She had a fever, and Mom decided to stay home with her until the last minute, only arriving when my performance was almost over. On the way home, Dad said, "You played well, Anna, but your posture could use some work." I forced a smile. I should have been used to it by then. Praise always came with correction. Still, something inside me cracked a little that night. Lily was different. When she turned 12, she wanted to join the school play. Mom spent nights helping her rehearse, printing scripts, buying costumes, even baking cookies for the whole cast. I watched from the hallway, pretending not to care, but deep down, it stung. One afternoon, I overheard Mom on the phone with her friend. "Lily's such a natural. She just shines on stage. Anna's more serious. She takes after her father." That sentence stuck with me. Takes after her father. It sounded like a curse. Still, I tried to be good. I helped with chores. I studied hard. I stayed out of trouble. But somehow, that only made me invisible. The better I behaved, the less they seemed to notice. Sometimes, I wondered if I was adopted, not because I didn't love them, but because love never quite fit right in that house. It was like wearing someone else's sweater, warm, but itchy in all the wrong places. The distance between us grew quietly, like dust settling in the corners of the house. By the time I turned 17, Lily had become the center of everything. School plays, birthdays, even dinner conversations revolved around her. Lily got an A in science. Mom would beam. "Lily's teacher says she's a natural leader," Dad would add. And then they'd turn to me, out of politeness. "How's your art class going, Anna?" "Fine," I'd say. Good. That was it. The conversation would drift back to Lily's achievements. One evening, I came home early from the library. The house was quiet, except for faint laughter from Lily's room. The door was slightly open. Inside, Mom and Lily were sitting on the bed, flipping through a scrapbook. My scrapbook. They didn't notice me standing there. I didn't say a word. I just turned away. I remember walking outside, the cold air hitting my face, and realizing that maybe love isn't something you earn. Maybe it's something you either get, or don't. That night, Lily came to my room. "Anna, are you mad at me?" "No," I lied. "You sure you were quiet at dinner?" "I'm fine, Lily." She hesitated. "You know, Mom and Dad don't mean to be hard on you." I smiled weakly. "I know." But she didn't know. To her, love was effortless, something given without question. To me, It was a test I could never pass. The last thing Mom said to me before I left for college was, "Take care of yourself, Anna. Don't forget to call." No hug, no tears, just words. Neat, distant, rehearsed. As the car pulled away, I looked back at the house of rules, silence, and uneven love. I told myself I wouldn't look back, but I did. Twice. Because part of me still hoped someone would run out, call my name, and say, "Wait, Anna, don't go. We love you too." No one did, and that silence said everything. College was supposed to be my escape, a clean slate, a chance to breathe without feeling like I was taking someone else's air. But it turns out, when you grow up in silence, that silence follows you. The first few weeks were fine. I made friends, joined an art club, even started painting again, something I'd stopped doing at home because Mom said it was a distraction. Every brushstroke felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I didn't know I'd lost. But then the calls started. Mom would call every Sunday, her tone polite but detached. "How are your classes, Anna?" "Fine, good. Lily's doing wonderful. She made captain of her debate team." There it was again, the shadow of Lily in every conversation. Even 300 miles away, I couldn't escape her. Sometimes Lily would call too, her voice bright and full of life. "Mom said you're taking art again. That's so cool." I'd smile, even though she couldn't see it. "Yeah, it's nice. I miss you. I miss you too." And I did. I missed her. But I also missed the version of me that existed before comparisons. Before being the serious one. Before love became a contest I never signed up for. During my sophomore year, Lily came to visit for the weekend. She had grown taller, prettier, the kind of girl who turns heads without realizing it. Mom packed her bags, Dad gave her spending money, and they all acted like she was going off to meet a celebrity, not her sister. When she arrived, my roommate couldn't stop complimenting her. "She's adorable. You two look nothing alike," Lily laughed. "Yeah, Anna got the brains, I got the chaos." Everyone laughed except me. That night, while we sat on my dorm bed eating microwave popcorn, she told me about her new boyfriend. She was 16. I warned her softly, "Be careful, Lily." She rolled her eyes. "God, you sound like Mom." I froze. She didn't mean it as an insult, but it hit me anyway. Maybe I had become my mother without realizing, cautious, guarded, afraid to trust joy. Later that night, she fell asleep watching a movie. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to her quiet breathing. For the first time, I felt something I didn't want to name. Jealousy, maybe, or grief. Not because she had more love, but because she didn't even have to ask for it. When the semester ended, I came home for the holidays. The house felt smaller, like the walls had moved in while I was gone. Mom greeted me with a hug that lasted 2 seconds too short. Dad nodded from the couch. And Lily, she ran into my arms like she always used to. At dinner, nothing had changed. "Lily, tell us about your debate finals," Dad said, already smiling. She launched into a story about trophies and applause, and I watched them glow with pride. Then Mom turned to me, "And you, Anna, how's your art?" I smiled faintly. "It's going well." "Good. Have you thought about something more stable, like accounting?" The room laughed softly, as if it were a harmless joke, but to me, it wasn't. That night, I found myself outside again. Same porch, same cold air, same ache in my chest. I had changed, grown, learned to breathe differently. But here, I was still the quiet one, the afterthought, the shadow. I realized then that sometimes, home doesn't grow with you. It stays frozen in time, and you're the one who feels out of place. A week before I went back to college, I overheard Mom and Dad arguing in the kitchen. Their voices were low, but sharp enough to cut through walls. "Anna's always so distant," Mom said. "She's just independent," Dad replied. "Independent," she scoffed. "She barely talks to us." I stood at the top of the stairs, holding my breath. "You've always compared her to Lily," Dad said quietly. "That's not true, isn't it?" The silence that followed was heavier than any shouting. It confirmed everything I'd ever felt, but never dared to say. That night, Lily came into my room. "You heard them, didn't you?" she asked. I nodded. "They don't mean it that way, Anna. Mom loves you." I smiled sadly. "She loves the idea of me, the version that doesn't make noise." Lily sat beside me, her hand finding mine. "I wish I could fix it." "You can't." And that was the truth. Love isn't a math problem. You can't balance it by wishing harder. When spring came, I stopped answering their Sunday calls. At first, Mom texted reminders. "Call us when you can." Then the messages slowed. Eventually, they stopped. I focused on my art, long nights in the studio, hands covered in paint, heart spilling onto canvas. Every piece I made was some version of home. A girl standing in the doorway, light falling on her sister while she lingered in the dark. One evening, my art professor stopped by. "This one feels personal," he said, pointing to a painting where the older sister's face was blurred. "It is," I replied softly. "It's about love that doesn't fit evenly." He nodded slowly. "That's the most honest kind." Later, when I walked back to my dorm, I listened to Lily's last voicemail, the one where she said, "Mom's worried about you. Please call us. I miss you." I didn't delete it. I just let it play in the background, her voice soft, full of warmth. And I realized that even in growing apart, love still finds a way to echo. I used to believe that distance was measured in miles, the stretch of road between my college dorm and the house I grew up in, but I learned that real distance is quieter. It's the space between one word and the next, between a question asked and the silence that follows. Pause to south. By my third year, home had become just a place where my mail still went. I called less, visited rarely. When I did, everything felt staged, like we were all pretending nothing had changed. Lily would text me photos, her new haircut, her prom dress, her trophies. She looked happy, radiant. Even I told myself I was happy for her. I wanted to believe that. Then one afternoon she called me crying. "They're fighting again," she whispered. "Mom and Dad." "Yeah, about you." I froze. "What do you mean?" Mom said. "You've forgotten them." "Dad said she pushed you away." The line went silent for a moment, just Lily's uneven breathing. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying. My leaving hadn't freed me from them. It had broken something that couldn't be repaired. I went home that weekend. The drive felt longer than usual, heavy, tense, like the car itself was reluctant to return. When I arrived, Mom was in the kitchen, her hands busy but her eyes tired. "You didn't have to come," she said without looking up. "I wanted to," I replied. "Lily called you, didn't she?" I hesitated. She was worried. Mom sighed. "She worries too much. You should focus on school." That's what she always did, turned emotions into instructions. That evening, we sat down for dinner. The silence was suffocating. Dad asked about my classes. Mom corrected my posture. Lily tried to fill the gaps, talking about everything and nothing at once. At one point she said softly, "I just want us all to be happy." No one responded, because happiness was a foreign language in that house, one we never learned to speak fluently. Later that night, I went for a walk. The neighborhood was quiet, same houses, same stars, same restless ache. Lily found me sitting on the porch steps. "You know," she said gently, "they're trying, in their own way." I smiled faintly. "I know. Then why does it still feel like this?" I thought for a long moment before answering. "Because trying isn't the same as seeing. They never really saw me, Lily." She didn't say anything, just sat beside me, her head on my shoulder. It was the first time in years I let her do that. For a brief moment, the world felt still. We weren't sisters defined by comparison. We were just two girls sitting under the same night sky, trying to understand what love was supposed to feel like. Then the porch light flicked on. Mom's voice cut through the quiet. "Lily, come inside. It's late." Not Anna, just Lily. And the moment vanished, like a match blown out too soon. The next morning, I found a letter on my desk. It was from Mom. Her handwriting was neat, every word deliberate. Anna, I don't know how to talk to you anymore. You've changed. Maybe that's my fault. I wanted you to be strong. But maybe I forgot to be kind. I'm proud of you, even if I don't always say it. Please don't stop coming home. I read it twice, my hands trembling. It was the first time she had written the words, I'm proud of you. But instead of relief, I felt something else, grief. Grief for all the years those words could have existed and didn't. I wanted to tell her that I loved her, that I never stopped trying to earn what should have been freely given. But when I walked downstairs, she was busy again. Folding laundry, talking to Dad, life moving on like the letter never happened. And I couldn't bring myself to break the silence. So I folded the letter and slipped it into my bag. A reminder that even love, when late, can still hurt. When I returned to college, Lily texted me. She misses you, you know? I miss her too, I replied. Then tell her. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. Some words mean more when left unsaid. Weeks passed. I threw myself into my art again. Canvases filled with doorways, staircases, and half-lit rooms. Every painting was a memory, disguised as metaphor. One night, while cleaning my desk, I found the letter again. The paper had creased from being folded too long. I held it against my chest, whispering, I forgive you, Mom. And in that whisper, I felt something shift. Not a healing, not yet, but a soft loosening of the weight I'd carried for years. The distance between us was still there, but for the first time, it didn't feel endless. It just felt real. And maybe that was the beginning of something honest. Not love as it should have been, but love as it was. It started with a phone call. Lily's voice was shaky, broken in a way I had never heard before. Anna, can you come home? What happened? Mom and Dad, they found out about Mark. They're furious. Mark, her boyfriend, the one she told me about years ago, when she was 16. I had warned her, softly, carefully, the way an older sister should. But I never thought I'd hear panic in her voice like that. Please, Anna. They won't listen to me. I packed a bag and drove through the night. Every mile felt heavier. By the time I reached the house, it was past midnight. The lights were still on, voices echoing from inside. Through the window, I saw Lily crying on the couch. Mom pacing, Dad shouting words I couldn't make out. When I opened the door, all three of them turned to look at me, like I was the last person they expected to see. Anna, Mom said sharply, this isn't your concern. She called me. You don't know the full story. I don't need to. I just know she's scared. The room went silent. Then Dad said coldly, you've been gone so long, you forgot what family rules are. Pause to South. And for the first time in my life, I didn't stay quiet. Rules, I said. You mean the ones that only apply to me? Mom's eyes widened. Anna, this isn't the time. It's never the time, is it? Never the time to talk. Never the time to listen. Lily sobbed quietly. Dad's jaw tightened. We're not doing this now. Of course we are. You've done this my whole life. Lily makes a mistake. You protect her. I do everything right, and you call it not enough. The words came out like fire. Years of quiet finally turning into sound. Mom tried to speak, but I cut her off. You taught me to be strong, but what you really meant was silent. You taught me to be good, but what you meant was invisible. The room trembled with the weight of it. Lily's face was pale, tears streaking down her cheeks. Anna, please, she whispered. I turned to her, my voice shaking. This isn't about you, Lily. It never was. You did nothing wrong, you just got the love I was never given. She looked at me like she wanted to say something, but couldn't. And that hurt the most, that she didn't know how to defend me. I stormed out before anyone could stop me. The night air was freezing, sharp against my skin. I stood on the porch, breathing hard, tears I didn't know I had spilling down. Behind me, I heard the door open. Mom's voice followed. Anna, wait. For what? Another lecture? You're misunderstanding. No, I finally understand. For once, she didn't have an answer. Just silence, the same kind that had filled every room of my childhood. Then Lily ran out, barefoot, her voice trembling. "Please don't go. Lily, you have to stop protecting them." "I'm not. I'm protecting you." Her words broke something inside me. "You don't need to, Lily. Not anymore." I hugged her tight, desperate, like I was trying to memorize what love should feel like. Then I got in my car and drove away, the house shrinking in my rearview mirror until it was just a dot of light swallowed by the dark. For weeks, no one called. Not Mom, not Dad, not even Lily. The silence I'd once longed for now felt unbearable. I threw myself into work, classes, art, anything to drown out the ache. But every painting I made looked the same. A house with no doors, no faces, only shadows standing where love should be. Then one evening, I got a letter, not from Mom, but from Lily. Her handwriting was shaky, her words raw. "I don't know how to fix what's broken. Mom cries when she thinks no one's looking. Dad's been quiet. I miss you, Anna. Please come home, even if it's just to yell again." I read the letter over and over, tears falling onto the paper. I wanted to go back, but I also knew if I did, nothing would really change. So instead, I painted again. A girl standing outside a house, hand raised but never knocking, and I titled it "The Distance Between Us." Months passed. Spring turned to summer, and life kept moving relentlessly, indifferently. One afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Lily. Her voice was trembling. "Anna, it's Dad. He had a heart attack." The world tilted. Everything that mattered and didn't matter collided at once. I drove home without thinking, heart pounding, hands numb. When I arrived, the hospital lights felt too bright, too clean. Mom was sitting in the hallway, her face pale and blank. She looked up, and for the first time in years, she didn't look strict. She just looked small. I sat beside her, neither of us spoke, because sometimes words are useless. They can't undo what silence built. Through the window, I saw Dad asleep, machines keeping rhythm where his voice used to be. I whispered, "Don't go yet, not like this." And in that sterile, humming room, I realized the truth. We spend our lives waiting for the right moment to say "I love you." But sometimes that moment never waits for us. Dad survived the heart attack, but something in all of us didn't. The doctor said he'd recover, but slower than before. And in the stillness of that hospital room, I saw what silence had done to us. We had spent years avoiding words, holding our pain like family heirlooms. And now, with the steady beep of machines in the background, I realized how fragile time really was. Mom sat beside him every day, reading newspapers, pretending it was normal. Lily brought coffee, flowers, small talk, trying to fill the space I couldn't. And me, I sat at the window, sketching his face in pencil lines that shook. Sometimes Dad would open his eyes and whisper, "You're here," and I would nod. Good, that was all. No apologies, no confessions. Just 2 syllables that meant everything and nothing. I wanted to say "I forgive you," but I couldn't. Not yet. Forgiveness, I learned, isn't a switch you flip. It's a door you open slowly, afraid it might creak too loud. After 2 weeks, they let him go home. The house felt different, quieter, softer. Mom spoke less sharply. Lily hovered around everyone like a guardian angel. One evening, while helping Mom fold laundry, I found a small box on her nightstand. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to me, none sent. Her handwriting was smaller than I remembered, fragile around the edges. I sat on her bed, reading the first one. "Anna, today you won a contest at school. I didn't tell you I was proud because I didn't want you to get distracted. I should have said it. I'm sorry." The next one, "You looked beautiful at your recital. I don't know why I criticized your posture. Maybe I didn't know how to love without correcting." And another, "I don't know how to talk to you anymore, but I hope you know I try." My hands trembled. All the words I'd wanted my whole life. They were here, just never spoken out loud. That night, I walked into her room. Mom was sitting by the window, reading quietly. I held the box out to her. "You kept them," I said softly. She looked up surprised, then sad. I was waiting for the right time. "There isn't one," I whispered. Her eyes filled with tears. We didn't hug, not right away. But something shifted between us. A fragile truce born of exhaustion and regret. "You're like your father," she said after a long pause. "Is that good or bad?" "Both." Then she smiled. The smallest smile I'd ever seen from her, but it was real. When I left her room that night, the house didn't feel quite as heavy. The air moved differently, like it was finally allowed to breathe again. Lily and I sat outside the next morning, coffee cups in hand. The sun was rising, warm and gold against the pale sky. "You found the letters, didn't you?" she asked. I nodded. "Mom told me she wrote them. She never sent them because she was scared." "Scared of what?" "That you wouldn't read them, that it was too late." I stared at the yard, the same one we used to play in. It looked smaller now, like everything from childhood does when you see it through older eyes. "I think I understand her now," I said quietly. "All those years I thought she didn't love me, but maybe she just didn't know how." Lily reached over and squeezed my hand. "You're both trying, Anna. That's what matters." For the first time, I believed her. Because trying, even when it's clumsy, late, imperfect, is still love in its own broken form. A month later, Dad passed away in his sleep. Peacefully, they said. But grief doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like static. A sound you can't turn off. At the funeral, Mom held my hand the whole time. Neither of us cried out loud. Our silence wasn't the cold kind anymore. It was the kind that said, "I'm here." After everyone left, I stayed behind. I placed one of Mom's letters, the first one, inside Dad's coat pocket. It said, "We loved you, even when we forgot how to show it." Then I whispered, "Goodbye, Dad." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves, and for a moment, it sounded like his laugh, distant, but kind. Back home, I opened my sketchbook. On the first blank page, I wrote, "Love doesn't always speak. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it whispers. And sometimes it arrives too late. But still, it arrives." I closed the book, and for the first time, I didn't feel like the invisible sister anymore. Just a daughter, finally at peace with the shadows she came from.